My pleasure.
And back with us now are Kristen Welker, Maya Wiley, Donna Edwards, and Phil Rucker. Kristen, first of all, from the president, we heard some mixed messaging because he wants to emphasize his law and order credentials, his support for police, and at the same time attacking the Obama administration, which actually did do police reforms that were dismantled by the incoming Trump White House.
That's right, Andrea. There was a fair amount of mixed messaging. You had President Trump unveil his executive order, which he says will, and to your point, after a review by the Justice Department, presumably outlaw chokeholds unless the officer's life is at risk. Now, that's a big loophole because, of course, if an officer argues that his or her life is at risk, then the question becomes what is the counterpoint to that? But clearly trying to unveil his plan to address some of these concerns by protesters while also painting himself as the law and order president. Yet again, Andrea, underscoring the extent to which he sees police departments as important and that he does not want to defund police departments or redirect any of the funding that's going toward law enforcement in any way, shape, or form, and making the point that it's not mutually exclusive to invest in communities, to invest in better policing, and to also help to improve things like training and the resources that the police have at their hands. But then the counterpoint to all of that messaging, Andrea, you had President Trump start to talk about the ways in which he believes he has helped the African-American community. He referenced his First Step Act, that bipartisan piece of legislation that, of course, did begin the process of criminal justice reform, but then also started talking about the economy, his response to the COVID crisis. This is clearly a president who is aware of the fact that all of this is going to tie into and impact his reelection chances. We know that he's been quite eager to turn the page on the economic crisis and also on the COVID crisis. He's poised to hold that rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Saturday, despite concerns by health officials there that holding a large indoor rally could create some type of spread of the COVID virus there in Tulsa, or increase the spread there, I should say. So all of these competing factors at play and sort of overshadowing his own messaging by starting to talk about things like the stock market, Andrea. So we'll have to see how the protesters, how civil rights groups hear what they heard from President Trump. But some of what he said will undoubtedly be very welcome from those on Capitol Hill, including in his own party, who are trying to move towards some piece of bipartisan legislation.
And while you've been talking, Kristen, we've been also looking on a split screen of the Rose Garden with Jared Kushner, Jim Jordan, and other officials, and there isn't a whole lot of social distancing or masking going on among those still, the officials still in that Rose Garden. Maya Wiley, when we talk about police reform, I mean, one of the major things that happened after Ferguson with President Obama and Eric Holder was to start changing all of the billions of dollars that went to local police forces with military-style weaponry and armed personnel carriers. And that has now been reversed by the Trump administration.
The Trump administration has reversed all of the major effort that the Obama administration set in place to keep more Black people, more Latinos, more citizens safe from abusive policing. And if you consider that speech he just gave, I mean, not only was it full of misinformation, he literally, over the lives and the bodies of Black people that he opened his announcement with, actually started talking about the stock market and the incredible, gains that we're going to have from big pharma. Well, I'm sorry, those are two things that Black communities have largely been excluded from the benefits of. And, Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump himself have long, since the beginning of this administration, made clear that they are on the side of lawless policing in a law and order framework. And he just did that again. Andrea, we have to stop and take slow down for a minute on the optics of that press conference. All I saw were white faces when we're talking about Black bodies.
Indeed, with the exception, of course, of the senator from South Carolina, Tim Scott, who has been a leader on trying to get something out of the Republican Senate. Donna Edwards, Finally, what you heard there was a campaign speech where the president was on this tightrope trying to balance his law and order message, supporting the police, and talking about a few bad actors, but not acknowledging the role of many police unions to oppose reform.
You know, well, I think the president's speech today, I mean, his attempt was to try to move this out of the headlines. And if he thought that anything that he said today would do anything to stop the protesters and stop the demand for law enforcement across this country from killing unarmed black people, this did not do it. And, you know, to go from, you know, talking about, you know, referencing the families of those who've been murdered to stock market gains and retail sales was appalling. And so even listening to this as a campaign speech, there was no connection from the beginning to the end. And this will not stop the calls to demand that Congress and across the country, we really do something to fix abusive police department.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.